Just visit the new CalgaryHerald.com with more of everything worth knowing.
This council operates in the dark. It operates closed, right? I'm always shocked to know that nobody keeps track of councillors' voting records, that nobody knows who donates to councillors in between time periods, or that you and your colleagues had to file a Freedom of Information request to figure out how much they spent on dry cleaning. And that's just not right. We need to open up the system to citizens. We need to clean up campaign finance reform. And we really need to make sure that Calgarians see themselves in their government. And it's all about that aspect of being accountable. I'll be setting a campaign spending limit for myself based on the number of citizens.
And you haven't determined what that is yet?
I haven't quite determined what it is yet. It'll probably be about 60 cents per citizen. But I want to actually make sure that we are fair to other candidates too, because I'd like other candidates to do this as well.
Yeah.
I will be immediately...
That's not voters, that's citizens.
Citizens. I will be immediately disclosing every week all donors on my website. And there's a number of other small things that I'll be pushing for further changes, even more restrictive than that if I'm elected, including full financial disclosure registries and so on. Right? We got to be serious about looking at the Calgary Transportation Plan as we've passed it and saying, all right, these are the things we need to build over time, and these are our priorities, and this is how we're going to sequence them. You know, the funny thing about the Northeast and Northwest LRT extensions is that neither of them appeared on Calgary Transit's 25-year strategic plan when they were approved, and yet they were approved. It was capricious. It was at the first meeting of the council after the election, and let's call a spade a spade. It was so that we would have votes to build the West LRT line, and that's no way to run a city. The reason we're in the mess that we're in with the airport tunnel is not about the $300 million per se, but it's about the broken city systems, right? One civil servant removed the airport tunnel from the city's transportation plan without telling council. When council said, hey, put that back, it was so late that we couldn't actually make a case to the provincial and federal government saying, this is a priority, it's got to be done. So now we're in a situation where if we can't find that $300 million by the end of this year, and we want the tunnel, it's going to cost $1 billion. That's crazy, right? And no wonder the province and the feds don't want to come to the table with us if those are the games we're going to play. So we have to bring that team of 15 people together and say, what are the most important things? And the airport tunnel is such a good example because it so clearly has to be a priority only because of timing. Maybe Glenmore and 37th or Heritage and McLeod, maybe that actually affects more people, but we can do it next year for the same price. In the case of the airport tunnel, it's $600 million more dollars if we wait a year. And that's all the kinds of things you got to balance off when you're making priorities. I always say that I've worked with Fortune 500 companies and the world's largest nonprofits. I'm the only guy you've ever met whose two biggest clients are the Gap and the United Nations. I'm used to looking at billion-dollar budgets, profit and loss statements. I know how to read an auditor's report. I spend my life teaching people how to run nonprofit organizations. So I feel like that side of it is good. And I think that Calgarians will see my record of service to the community, my record of real impact outside of government. You know, I think that the Better Calgary campaign has really changed how this government is starting to think about itself. It's time to take the next step. And I think in this race, that's what's going to happen. We even have the insiders pretending they're outsiders for this race, and they can't. Because if one of my opponents says to me, you know, council really stinks, and my answer is, yeah, you're right. And Alderman so-and-so, you've been there for 9 years. Why does it stink? And if they don't have an answer to that question, then they can't legitimately present themselves to their voters as being a voice for change, and I think this is a year for change.
Okay.